Okay, Bitcoin broke to new all-time highs again. When does this party end? In this video, I want to discuss the three catalysts that I see and my base case for this year, so let's get started. Last week, I had an interview with a gentleman by the name of John Burke, in which we cited reasons that I expect cryptocurrency to go higher, but also those same reasons where I expect a slowdown in crypto. So I want to talk to those of you right now. I want to talk about the three catalysts that I'm looking at. We're going to get deeper into those catalysts in this particular video, and I want to talk about more importantly, where those three catalysts, where do we see those three catalysts going, and what they mean for today's price and tomorrow's price of Bitcoin. So my base case prediction. Now, there are three catalysts out there that I believe are pushing the markets ever so much higher, the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, etc., crypto markets. And I want to explain what those are to you right now. The very first one that we talk about is the halving effect. Now, the halving effect is something that happens roughly every 4 years. What we see is the rewards that are paid to miners to digitally solve and create new blocks for Bitcoin. Those started out at 50. Now, I wasn't mining when that elusive 50 Bitcoin reward came out. No, I started just after that when the first halving came in 2012. So 2012, at the end of 2012, the amount of rewards that went to Bitcoiners went from 50 to 25. Then I became a miner. I became a miner in 25, and I left mining when we were still at a 25 reward. All right. A lot of reasons behind that, but too many to get into right now. But what I will say is that the halving effect has gone from 50 to 25, from 25 to 12 and a half, from 12 and a half to 6 and a quarter, and from 6 and a quarter to 3 and an eighth. 3 and 1/8 coins are now rewarded to miners. Why are miners mining when they only can get a little more than 3 coins as a block reward? Well, because look at the price behind me. You can see we're well over 105, 106,000 for BTC today. So you get a lot more for your coin. And the other thing we know is that hash rates, that's the amount of work, the amount of energy that's going into mining these coins, is at all-time highs right now. So when you look at crypto economics, really kind of boils down to this. Number one, only 21 million in Bitcoin will ever be mined, right? That takes us out to the year 2140 before it's done. 95% of the BTC has already been mined. Now, I mentioned this to John, that when I started mining Bitcoin, there was already 60% that was gone before I even got started. Now, there's only 5% Bitcoin left to be mined, to be put into circulation. You know, the other thing that makes this a really tight scarcity is that there are numbers out there, plus or minus, that 20% of all Bitcoin that was mined has been lost, because early in the days, when you mined coin, you got the big long address, that alphanumeric address, or you got it on a QR code. A lot of this was stored on paper. Some of this was stored on hard drives. Some of it was stored on things like Sony PlayStation. People were mining coins on PlayStations, on gaming consoles, and now they can't find them. They can't get to them for whatever reason. They've lost that address. And there is billions upon billions of cryptocurrency that'll never be recovered because of that. That puts a scarcity on what's left. And that itself will cause the supply to be low. And I think that supply shock is still yet to be coming. Most of the Bitcoin that's out there, and I believe it's 2/3, is held by long-term holders. These are folks that have mined or bought Bitcoin early on, that have held it for greater than 15 months. And so there's a lot of us, and I consider me in that pile because I've yet to sell any of my Bitcoin, right? So add all that up and add the demand, that $2.2 billion influx that came in. The fact that there were some things that happened this weekend that I'm going to make you aware of too. And some of it had to do with that $1.6 trillion in wealth that was sitting behind Trump's inauguration. They were sitting right behind him as he was taking the oath of office. So some of that had to do with those folks behind President Trump. Next catalyst. Well, you see him here. Gensler, Trump, Atkins. The Gensler out, Trump in, Atkins coming effect. All right. News came out just this morning. Gary Gensler has, in effect, retired. He's on his way out. There is a current situation until Atkins comes in. The next in line to be the SEC is now interim, but Paul Atkins within probably going to be a couple months before he is cleared for takeoff. But they're already, the acting SEC chief is already starting to undo a lot of what Gary Gensler had put in as the tightener in chief in terms of what was going on in the SEC. There's a lot of rules that are being loosened. And then, of course, that leads to what I believe is going to happen is more and more private companies are going to start putting Bitcoin on their ledger. Right? You take, in fact, that the SEC is loosening rules, that now you can list Bitcoin as an asset on your ledger as a company. That's a big deal because just 12 months ago, you could not do that. You could have Bitcoin. You could have Bitcoin and store it. Anybody could, but you couldn't list it as an asset on your balance sheet. Now you can, right? And because of that, there are several companies that now have adopted Bitcoin. These are the top 10 companies that are holding or hodling Bitcoin. We know MicroStrategy's up there at the top. Marathon, Riot, Tesla, Coinbase, Hut 8, Galaxy, Block, Hive, and CleanSpark. There may be some names on here that you've never seen before. I know everyone knows MicroStrategy is at the top of this list. And I know everyone knows that Riot Blockchain is on here and Tesla's on here and Coinbase, it should be in the top 10. But then there might be some companies on here that you don't know about. Currently, the last time I checked, there was about 70 private companies that were holding Bitcoin on their ledger. I believe that is going to significantly rise. And I believe it's going to significantly rise because of catalyst number 3. That is the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now, there's been talk about an executive order to start the strategic Bitcoin reserve. We're still waiting for that. That's one of the things that didn't happen yesterday. I mean, Trump had a lot of speeches. He had a lot of executive orders. I know that the Department of Doge had an executive order that was established. We know Gary Gensler resigned. I mean, these are all some of the catalysts we've been talking about. But the strategic Bitcoin reserve, not yet. But I can tell by looking behind me, and I keep doing it. I can tell by looking behind me that a lot of folks that are trading Bitcoin, trading cryptocurrency as a whole, they are excited about this. And there's some things that they know, and there's some things that I know, and maybe some of you know. I want to bring this to your attention. Did you know that World Liberty Financial, that was the old DWAC, all right? Trump Financial. They just purchased over the weekend $100 million in crypto. That was their strategic purchase. So we can add them to the list of public companies, right? Public companies that now have Bitcoin or some sort of equivalent on their ledger. The primary purchases they had were Ethereum and something called wrapped Bitcoin. Now, wrapped Bitcoin is is the ability to get one-to-one for Bitcoin. But they also purchase coins in AAVE and also Chainlink. So again, and wrapped Bitcoin is just Bitcoin. It's been converted for use on the Ethereum network. So those were all purchases by Liberty Media, all right? World Liberty Financial. So let's think about this for a minute. The lack of mention for a strategic Bitcoin reserve. What do you think it could be? All right? Let me know your comments. I'm interested in knowing, why do you think that President Trump has not initiated a strategic Bitcoin reserve on day one of his administration? Why do you think it is? I'm going to give you my answer in a moment. But before I do, let me mention two more things. The strategic reserve, is this going to hurt the US dollar? Well, I want you to think about two other reserves we currently have. One is the reserve in gold. 8,000 metric tons we have in gold deposited in places like Denver, Fort Knox, West Point has some as well. No wonder everybody wants to go to West Point. But the other is the strategic petroleum reserve. The strategic petroleum reserve has the ability to have millions upon millions of barrels of oil, just in case we need them. Now, of the three, gold, oil, Bitcoin, which ones are the most important? When you think about it, I'd have to say the energy petroleum rates up there among everything. But then there's a good case for whether gold or Bitcoin become the next most important reserve. Because unlike gold, Bitcoin is portable. Unlike gold, you can get rid of it and you can buy it very quickly in its physical denomination. All right? And so those, I think, are two of the biggest reasons why I think Bitcoin makes more of a logical sense. Probably if I were to add number three on, scarcity. You know, there could be an argument that gold is a commodity that is somewhat scarce, but here's the thing. We're adding 2 to 3% to the amount of gold, that market cap of gold every year. And, you know, when you see Elon Musk launching heavy, eventually he's going to launch heavy out there for more than just going to Mars, going to the moon. They could be, in fact, looking at space mining. And if they do that, they're likely to find gold and even more precious minerals that may not be so precious once we find out how much is actually out there. I tell you something he'll never find. They'll never find Bitcoin in outer space unless they put it there to begin with. So there's your third reason. Add all those up, and here's what I see happening for Bitcoin for 2025. Now, we are still not even halfway through the halving, right? I call it the 500 days after halving. You take 500 days after halving, that puts us right around 2026. So what are we, still 350 days away before we get to that post-halving euphoria? So my base case was around 250 to 300. My optimistic case, and that is with the strategic reserve, and there's two parts of the strategic reserve. There's the implementation of it in framework, all right, and that's through executive order, and I believe that gets us to that 300K mark. But if we want to get over 500K, if we want to hit the 500K to million mark, then there needs to be the law that Senator Loomis brought up in Nashville, and that was in 2024, to actually set aside and create not only a strategic reserve, but deposits on that strategic reserve. And the idea is for the U.S. to own 5% of the outstanding Bitcoin. That's a tall tale, and that would definitely push us to that bubble area. Now, these are all base case optimistic bubble for the course of 2025. Anything is possible. Now, I mentioned, why do you think that President Trump is holding up on mentioning the strategic reserve? I think it could be on purpose. And it could be to avoid pushing the price too high, pushing the price from where we are now to the 300, the 500K, the 1 million area, until a formalized plan to place is in, or to purchase is in place. That's what I believe is likely to happen, right? But you can see by what companies and by what now billionaires are looking at. They're already starting to put in place their own strategic reserves before the U.S. moves forward with their plans.